Have you ever wondered why you keep losing the war inside your own mind? You wake up with good intentions, but by noon you're buried in distractions, buried in noise, buried in guilt. The world pulls at you from every direction. Emails, opinions, temptations, and endless reasons to stay small. You told yourself you'd change, that you'd start, that you'd take control. But the truth is, you didn't. And deep down, you know why. Because comfort has made you a prisoner. Excuses have become your language, and tomorrow has become your trap. But Stoic philosophy doesn't care how you feel about it. It doesn't coddle you. It forces you to rise. It demands you cut the lies, break the loop, and become someone who is no longer breakable. The Stoics believed your mind is either your fortress or your prison. And until you learn to master your thoughts, own your first hour, confront pain, and crush the craving for approval, you'll stay stuck. Unseen, unfulfilled, easily shaken. You're not alone in this. Many of us carry silent battles, but this isn't a feel-good message. This is a brutal wake-up call. If you're tired of being stuck, if you're ready to destroy the weak version of you, this is your moment. Like this video, subscribe now, because what comes next won't inspire you. It will challenge you. It will strip you down. It will force you to become unstoppable. 1. Destroy the voice that keeps you weak. You don't need more time. You don't need another plan. You need to shut down the voice in your head that's been quietly killing your potential. It's the voice that sounds friendly, the one that tells you to sleep in, to skip the gym, to wait until you feel ready. It pretends to care about your comfort, but comfort is not your friend. Comfort is the cage. And that voice, it's the warden. You don't negotiate with it, you eliminate it. That voice doesn't whisper the truth, it whispers decay. It feeds you soft language, soft timing, soft life. But if you want to become unstoppable, you'll need to develop brutal clarity and brutal honesty with yourself. You'll have to realize that the biggest enemy isn't someone out there. It's not your boss, it's not the system, it's not your past. The biggest enemy is the version of you that keeps listening to the voice of weakness. Imagine this. It's 6 a.m. The alarm goes off. You reach for your phone and that voice strikes first. Just 10 more minutes. You listen. You drift. You lose. The day hasn't started, and already you've surrendered. Not to the world, but to yourself. And the problem is, it doesn't stop at the alarm. It creeps into everything. The way you train, the way you speak, the way you show up, or don't. Stoic philosophy doesn't leave room for that voice. Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." The Stoics knew that to be in command of your own life, you must first take command of your own mind. And that includes cutting out the internal parasite that convinces you mediocrity is acceptable. That voice survives because you feed it. Every time you avoid what you know needs to be done, it grows stronger. Every time you choose comfort over confrontation, it sharpens its claws. It doesn't show up as a shout, it shows up as a whisper. But the impact is devastating, and it disguises itself well. It wears the mask of self-care, of "I've had a long week," of "I deserve this." You tell yourself you're being kind to your body, but really you're being dishonest with your mind. That's where the shift begins. You have to confront the soft voice with firm action. When it says rest, move. When it says later, do it now. When it says take it easy, go harder. You train your body through movement. You train your character through resistance. And resistance always starts in the mind. Marcus Aurelius faced armies, betrayal, and plagues. But the biggest battle he wrote about was never against Rome's enemies. It was against his own emotions, impulses, and habits. He didn't romanticize change. He acted, even when the day felt heavy, even when the weight of the empire sat on his shoulders. He understood something most men today forget. Your greatest victories are quiet. They're invisible. They happen when no one's watching, in the small decision to rise, while the weak version of you begs to stay down. So how do you silence the voice? Not through thought, through motion. Action is your sword. You don't argue with weakness, you outpace it. If you hesitate, it tightens its grip. If you act, it loses its power. Simple choices, repeated daily, dismantle the old you brick by brick. You don't need grand gestures, you need warlike consistency. No retreat, no excuses, no permission. If you've been stuck in cycles of self-sabotage, this is the moment to shatter the pattern. Begin with what that voice resists the most. The cold shower, the early alarm, the run when it rains, the conversation you've avoided. Each time you do what you fear, you prove who's in control. It's not about becoming fearless. It's about becoming unwilling to obey fear. And the truth is, your transformation starts when you stop asking for comfort and start demanding strength. The world won't give it to you. You have to earn it through refusal. Refusal to give in. Refusal to delay. Refusal to stay where you are. Right now, that voice might already be making excuses, saying you'll start tomorrow, saying this video was enough, but you know better. You know what needs to be done. The question is, will you move or will you listen? Start small, but start now. Stand up. Turn off the noise. Pick one task you've delayed and do it immediately. Not because it feels good, but because that's how unstoppable people are built. Not in comfort, but in defiance of it. 2. Win the first hour. Win the war. The strongest people don't wait for the day to inspire them. They take it by the throat the moment their feet hit the floor. Power doesn't arrive halfway through your afternoon. It's built in the silence, when the world is still asleep and you're alone with your choices. That first hour after you wake up, it isn't a routine, it's a battlefield. And what you do with it defines everything. Your body wakes up before your will does. That's why your instincts pull you toward comfort first. Scroll the phone, check meaningless notifications, let the noise in before your breath. Let the world decide what your mind focuses on. You think it's harmless, you think it's casual, but that one act is a surrender. You're not checking your messages. You're handing over command of your day to the chaos of others. The Stoics didn't wake up to be entertained. They woke up to prepare for war. Marcus Aurelius knew each morning might bring betrayal, laziness, or failure. He wrote to himself, not to be inspired, but to anchor his mind in reason before the world tried to unmoor it. He walked into battle with armor forged in morning reflection. That's not poetry, that's strategy. Because the first hour isn't about meditation cushions or green smoothies. It's about declaring war on distraction. It's when you decide if you'll lead the day or follow it like a leaf in the wind. And the brutal truth is, most men lose the war before they even make their bed. They open their eyes and submit to noise, to temptation, to someone else's agenda. They give away their mental clarity before they even brush their teeth. But it doesn't have to be like that. What if that first hour became sacred? What if it became the steel gate between who you were and who you're becoming? No one will do it for you. No one will make your mornings meaningful. This is the hour where discipline begins. Not in public, but in private. Not when the world sees you, but when no one does. That's where identity is carved. Picture this. You wake before the alarm. No phone, no screen. Just breathe. Just silence. The weight of your own thoughts meets you like a mirror. You stretch. You read a paragraph that punches you in the soul. You move your body. Cold water hits your skin. And your mind, once fogged with clutter, sharpens like a blade. That's not just a morning. That's an act of defiance. Stoic discipline isn't about comfort. It's about control. Control over your time. Control over your input. Control over how your nervous system reacts to the world. The first hour is your opportunity to choose the day before it chooses you. And the question isn't whether you have time. The question is whether you have command. Most people will keep losing that hour. They'll keep reaching for devices before purposes. They'll drink stimulation before hydration. They'll move only when forced. And they'll wonder why their lives feel like someone else is driving. But you? If you're done playing that game, if you're tired of letting mornings slip by like vapor, you reclaim it now. The Stoic path doesn't need candles or incense. It needs courage. Courage to stand in silence. Courage to wake early when your body says sleep. Courage to face the fact that the world wants your attention more than it wants your strength. But you weren't made to be pulled in every direction. You were made to choose your direction, deliberately, relentlessly, quietly. Start with breath. Let your lungs expand before your inbox. Let your thoughts organize before your timeline scrolls. Move. Not because it feels good, but because inertia is a thief. Read something that challenges your pride. Write something that anchors your focus. Drink water. Sit in the quiet. This is the moment that sets the tone for every interaction, every reaction, every decision. And if you fall, if you oversleep, if you scroll without thinking, don't spiral. Restart, reclaim, repeat. Mastery is built in how quickly you recover, not how perfectly you perform. The first hour belongs to warriors, not because they are stronger, but because they decide to be. When others delay, they move. When others react, they prepare. When others surrender, they lead. And once you take back that hour, the rest of the day has no choice but to follow. You don't need a longer day. You need to own the beginning. Begin tomorrow before the world begins you. And every day, win that first hour, because that's how unstoppable it begins. Quietly, without applause, but with a purpose that can't be shaken. 3. Own everything. No more excuses. No more waiting. No one is coming to rescue you. That's the harsh truth most people spend their whole lives trying to avoid. But the moment you stop waiting for permission, the moment you stop blaming your past, your family, your boss, your genes, the economy, the system, something powerful happens. You finally stand up. You stop reacting. You begin to take command. And from that moment on, you are no longer breakable. Control is not given. It is seized. And the fastest path to personal power is through ownership. Total ownership. Every outcome, every flaw, every failure, yours. Not to carry as guilt, but to lift as leverage. The weak man resents this idea. He says, but it wasn't all my fault. He clings to justification because he fears responsibility. He thinks ownership means blame. But ownership is power. It means that no one gets to decide your outcome but you. You might be stuck right now. You might feel behind. You might feel like life passed you by. But ask yourself, how many hours, how many years have you wasted waiting for someone else to change so that you could move? How many opportunities have slipped through your fingers because you were busy explaining why you couldn't? The Stoics never made excuses. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire, fought wars, buried children, suffered illness, and still wrote every day to remind himself that everything begins with his response. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. He didn't say, maybe if things get better, I'll feel better. He said, let me rule what I can, the way I think, the way I act, the way I endure. Most men lose years trying to change the world before changing themselves. They waste time pointing fingers. They become experts in diagnosing what's wrong around them, while never confronting what's wrong within them. But the man who wants to be unshakable doesn't wait for a better world. He becomes stronger in the one he's already in. You can start with a simple moment, when the day doesn't go your way, when the schedule breaks, when someone lets you down, when your plans fall apart. In that moment, don't ask why it happened, ask what you're going to do now. The difference between stuck and unstoppable is found in that tiny, violent shift. From waiting to acting, from blaming to building. Imagine waking up tomorrow and refusing to say, I don't have time. Instead, you say, I haven't made it a priority. Feel the weight of those words, because in that shift, you reclaim control. Imagine looking at your financial situation, your health, your relationships, not with shame, not with pride, but with ruthless responsibility. What needs to change? What's on you? What starts now? This isn't about guilt. Stoicism doesn't shame, it sharpens. When you take ownership, you don't shrink, you grow. You break the chains of victimhood. You stop living reactively. You stop being controlled by the past. You become the kind of man who shapes the future. The most dangerous excuse is the one that sounds wise. I'll start when the time is right. But if you're honest, that excuse has been playing in your head for years. The right time isn't coming. The perfect plan isn't real. All you have is now. And you either rise or you rot waiting. Think of a moment when you said you'd change. Maybe it was New Year's, maybe after a breakup, maybe after a scare at the doctor's office, and you meant it. But months passed, and the fire faded. Why? Because you didn't anchor it in ownership. You waited for motivation to return. You waited for life to cooperate, but life doesn't care. It never did. The Stoic man acts anyway. He doesn't wait for energy. He doesn't wait for applause. He doesn't wait for alignment. He stands in the wreckage and says, what's mine to do next? That's what separates the strong from the soft. Not the absence of pain, but the refusal to stay powerless. Start today. Not with a speech, not with a plan, with one small decision that you stop outsourcing. Maybe it's showing up at the gym even though you're tired. Maybe it's saying no to the easy way out. Maybe it's cleaning the room you've ignored for weeks because it reminds you of failure. Don't do it because you feel inspired. Do it because no one else can do it for you. And when it's done, don't ask for praise. Own the win. quietly, completely, relentlessly. That's where your freedom begins. That's where you become unstoppable. 4. Let pain shape you into power. Pain has a purpose, not the kind that breaks you, but the kind that builds you. The kind that burns off the parts of you that are soft, entitled, and addicted to ease. Strength isn't found in the absence of struggle. It's found on the other side of it. The version of you that's unshakable, focused, and relentless, he's buried under layers of comfort. And pain is the fire that burns those layers away. Modern life has sold you the lie that pain is the enemy, that anything hard should be avoided, that struggle means something is wrong. But Stoicism flips that lie on its head. Pain is not a signal to retreat, it's a signal to rise, to lean in, to evolve. It's the exact pressure your soul needs to harden into something real. And the men who reject that pressure stay soft, stay stagnant, stay invisible. Ask yourself, when was the last time you willingly walked into discomfort without a guarantee of reward? When was the last time you said yes to something that scared you? Not because it looked impressive, but because you knew it would stretch you? Most people run the other way. They retreat into comfort, routines, and habits that keep them emotionally numb. They convince themselves that safety is the goal. But what they don't realize is that comfort is a cage. It promises peace, but delivers quiet decay. Imagine a man who has everything scheduled, everything optimized, yet still feels hollow. He's not in crisis, but he's not alive either. His body moves, but his spirit is sedated. That's what a pain-free life often becomes: dull, predictable, irrelevant. Now picture another man. He laces up his boots in the dark, knowing the run ahead will hurt. He shows up to that difficult conversation, heart pounding, voice steady. He enters the gym alone, tired, unmotivated, but he lifts anyway. Not for applause, not for aesthetics, but to break something weak in him and replace it with something fierce. That's not just discipline, that's transformation. Seneca wrote, "No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity, for he is not permitted to prove himself." Pain isn't punishment, it's a forge. It's the process of refinement. When a blacksmith wants to strengthen metal, he doesn't whisper to it. He beats it, he heats it, he shapes it through intensity. The same is true of your character. Growth never happens in the hammock. It happens in the furnace. You want to be respected? Respected by the man in the mirror? Then earn it. Not through words, through wounds, through showing up when every part of you says quit, through making decisions that cost you comfort in the short term, but buy you greatness in the long run. Pain is the price, and you either pay it voluntarily now, or life will extract it from you later with interest. But there's a shift that happens once you stop fearing pain. It becomes familiar. You start to seek it. Not for the suffering, but for the sharpening. You begin to understand that pain is just feedback. It's the body's language for adaptation. It's the mind's way of leveling up. What hurts now strengthens you later. And that shift from pain avoidance to pain embrace separates the average from the elite. The moment you stop running, the moment you face it and say, "Let's go," that's the moment you begin to win. Now bring this into your life. Don't wait for tragedy to toughen you. Choose a challenge. Choose the heavyweight, the cold water, the uncomfortable truth, the hard boundary, the new skill you're terrible at. Let each one make you more precise, more powerful, more durable. That's not a trendy mindset, that's ancient armor. The Stoics didn't chase pleasure, they trained for storms. They didn't ask for ease, they asked for clarity, conviction, and courage. They didn't avoid pain, they prepared for it. They stood tall when it arrived and said, "You're not here to destroy me, you're here to shape me." Start now, not by waiting for motivation, but by picking one thing that makes you hesitate, that makes you flinch, then walk into it with calm, with certainty, with the awareness that discomfort is not your enemy. It's your entrance to the version of you the world hasn't met yet. That version isn't built through ease. He's forged in fire. And the sooner you embrace the pain, the faster you'll become unstoppable. 5. Make failure your fire. Burn the fear down. Fear doesn't disappear when you avoid it. It grows. It feeds on hesitation, delays, and second guesses. The more you run, the louder it gets. But the moment you stop fleeing and face it head on, something shifts. Fear begins to lose its grip, and failure, the very thing you've been taught to avoid, becomes your sharpest tool for growth. Failure isn't a final sentence, it's a furnace. It doesn't mean you're broken. It means you found the edge of your current limit, and that edge is exactly where growth lives. But most people never touch it. They stop short. They let the fear of what if paralyze them. What if I look stupid? What if I lose everything? What if I'm not good enough? So they stay safe. They avoid risk. They stay soft. The Stoics saw fear differently. Marcus Aurelius never begged for certainty. He expected obstacles, expected loss, expected failure, and he met them not with panic, but with poise. If you are distressed by anything external, he wrote, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment. That is the pivot. What happens is never the problem. It's how you see it. And more than that, what you do next. Fear of failure is not instinct, it's conditioning. You weren't born afraid to try. You were taught to be afraid to look weak. Taught to chase perfection, taught to link your worth to your results. But Stoicism severs that chain. It says your value isn't in whether you succeed or fail. It's in your willingness to step forward anyway. Failure is not humiliation. Failure is information. It's feedback. It's fuel. A Stoic doesn't measure progress by how clean the path looks. He measures it by how often he gets up bloody, bruised, but unbent. That's what builds power. Getting hit and stepping forward anyway. Not because you're reckless, but because your purpose is stronger than your pride. Now imagine a man who has tried and failed, lost the job, built something that fell apart, missed the mark again. But instead of hiding, he reviews it, rebuilds, re-engages. He lets failure refine him, not define him. That man becomes something rare. He becomes dangerous, not to others, but to weakness, because he no longer fears the fall. He's already learned how to rise. You can become that man. You do it by changing how you interpret failure. Not as evidence that you're not enough, but as proof you're in motion. You're no longer sitting on the sidelines, you're in the fight. And the fight will mark you. You'll stumble, you'll mess up, but you'll come out sharper, clearer, tougher. The dangerous mindset isn't trying and failing, it's never trying at all. That's the trap. The fear of failing keeps you from ever starting. So you avoid the gym because you're out of shape. You avoid the business idea because someone might laugh. You don't say what needs to be said because you fear rejection. And then 5 years pass, 10, and you're still in the same place, except now it's worse because you've taught yourself not to move. Break that habit now, not tomorrow, not next week, today. Start by doing one thing that might not go perfectly. Record the video, make the call, ask the question, build the thing. Whatever failure means to you, walk into it. Let the discomfort hit. Let it teach you. And then come back stronger. Because once you stop fearing failure, you become unstoppable. When the fear fades, so does the hesitation. You move faster. You think clearly. You act with quiet confidence. You stop overanalyzing and start executing. And the world doesn't know how to deal with a man like that. Because most people are still trying to protect their image, still trying to avoid pain, still waiting for certainty. But not you. Not anymore. Failure is not your enemy. It's your initiation. Let it break the version of you that hides. Let it burn off the excuses. Let it introduce you to the man you were always meant to become. End today with one act of defiance. Do something you've avoided because of fear. Don't talk about it. Don't wait for the stars to align. Do it poorly if you must. Just do it, because every time you do, you turn fear into fire. And that fire is what turns ordinary men into legends. 6. Stop begging for approval. Stand alone like a king. The man who needs applause will always be a slave. Approval is the most silent form of control. It wraps itself around your choices like chains made of compliments. It whispers, don't rock the boat, don't speak too loudly, don't stand out too much. And before you realize it, you're no longer living your life, you're performing it. You've traded power for permission, clarity for consensus. And the worst part is, most don't even see the trade. Because the prison is padded with likes, smiles, and surface-level praise. To live free, you must kill your addiction to validation. You must let go of the craving to be seen, understood, and accepted. Not because you want to isolate, but because you want to become unshakable. A man who stands rooted in who he is does not tremble when others look away. He does not shrink when he's misunderstood. He does not flinch when he is criticized. That kind of man is rare, Not because it's difficult to become him, but because so few are willing to let go of the need to be liked. The Stoics knew this well. Marcus Aurelius didn't write for a crowd. He wrote to himself, in silence, in struggle, with no audience but his own conscience. He led empires, buried children, fought betrayal, and never once asked the world to understand his pain. He didn't complain about the judgment of others. He trained himself to become immune to it. "It never ceases to amaze me," he wrote. "We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own." That contradiction still destroys men today. You post something and then wait for the dopamine of approval. You walk into a room and adjust your energy based on who's watching. You hold back the truth because you're afraid of being labeled. You smile through disrespect, stay silent through offense, and perform humility just to be seen as kind. But none of this is a strength. It's a submission. Freedom begins the moment you stop performing. The moment you stop shaping your identity based on feedback. When your actions are no longer dictated by the audience, but by your own standards, your own internal code. That's when you begin to build something no one can shake. Because when you no longer need their praise, you no longer fear their rejection. Now picture this. A man speaks the truth calmly, clearly, without raising his voice. His opinion is not popular. The room goes cold. People whisper, a few leave, but he doesn't chase them. He doesn't soften his words. He doesn't apologize for being real. He remains still. That stillness, that calm self-possession is what Stoicism demands. Not arrogance, not showmanship, but grounded, silent power that does not depend on external reaction. You cannot reach your full strength if you're still chasing applause. Because to chase praise is to be pulled in every direction. One group wants you to be agreeable. Another wants you louder. Another wants you to be silent. If you try to please them all, you lose yourself. But if you stop trying, if you let go, if you tell the truth and accept that some will walk away, you earn back something far greater than their approval. You earn your own respect. It's tempting to believe that being accepted means you're doing something right, but often it means you're doing nothing dangerous, nothing disruptive, nothing real. You're blending in, and in blending, you vanish. Stoic strength refuses to vanish. It doesn't bend to trends or popularity. It roots itself in eternal principles: self-respect, clarity, discipline. Start small. When someone disagrees with you, don't explain yourself. Let the silence speak. When you feel the urge to edit your truth for comfort, say it anyway. When you feel the need to be liked, ask yourself, do I even like the version of me they're clapping for? That one question, answered honestly, will reshape how you move forever. The man who doesn't need to be liked becomes powerful, not because he's heartless, but because he's free. He's not for sale, not for trade, not for rent. He is whole on his own. His approval comes from within, and that kind of self-trust cannot be stolen. You've been giving your peace away for too long. It's time to take it back. No more begging to be seen, no more bending for applause, no more shaping your soul to fit into someone else's frame. Let them misunderstand, let them misjudge, let them walk away. What remains will be real. What remains will be you. And that is enough, always. 7. Discipline won't impress anyone, but it will save your life. Mastery isn't loud. It doesn't post progress. It doesn't wait for congratulations. Mastery repeats. It shows up when no one's watching. It puts on the boots, packs the bag, lifts the weight, writes the words, and follows through. Not because it's exciting, but because it's required. Discipline doesn't care how you feel. Discipline acts. And in a world obsessed with instant gratification, that kind of discipline is rebellion. You don't need more inspiration. You don't need another motivational quote. You need repetition. You need rhythm. You need a foundation that doesn't move when everything else does. Discipline is that foundation. It's what protects your goals from your moods, your values from your vices, your future from your laziness. It's not pretty, it's not dramatic, but it's the most powerful force in your arsenal and the only one fully in your control. The problem isn't that people don't want results. The problem is they chase sparks instead of systems. They wait for the perfect mood. They want to feel ready, but readiness is a trap. It tricks you into stalling. The Stoics didn't wait to feel ready. They acted from reason, not emotion. Epictetus said, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. He didn't say feel your way there, he said do it. Discipline breaks the cycle of emotional dependency. It sets a standard and sticks to it, even when your head says no, even when your body says stop, even when the comfort of quitting offers itself like a warm bed. It's the mindset that gets you up at 5 a.m. without a camera on you. It's what puts vegetables on your plate when no one's around to see it. It's what keeps you calm in an argument, not because you're weak, but because you trained your mind to choose principle over impulse. Imagine a man who trains every morning before work. He doesn't broadcast it. He doesn't need validation. He does it because it shapes who he is. He's not addicted to perfection. He's committed to progress. And every time he steps into routine, instead of randomness, he becomes harder to knock off course. He becomes quiet steel. And when life hits, and it always does, he bends, but he doesn't break. Because discipline made him durable. Too many men confuse discipline with intensity. They sprint for 3 days and burn out for 3 weeks. They attack on Monday and disappear by Thursday. But Stoic power isn't found in bursts. It's forged in consistency. It's what you do on the boring days that builds you. It's what you repeat when no one's clapping that determines how far you go. Most men are ruled by emotion. If they're motivated, they move. If they're tired, they don't. If they feel disrespected, they react. But discipline doesn't ask what you feel. It asks what you value. That's the shift. That's the line between chaos and control. The disciplined man doesn't argue with his own commitment. He honors it daily, ruthlessly, quietly. Stoicism doesn't worship intensity. It honors self-command. Marcus Aurelius didn't conquer his inner world with outbursts. He conquered it with order, with simplicity, with a standard. He knew emotions rise and fell, but virtue remains. And in that space between desire and action, he built discipline like a fortress. So how do you apply this? Start with one non-negotiable habit. Just one. A small act that happens daily, no matter the weather, no matter the mood. Not for results, for alignment. To prove to yourself that your word matters. Wake up at the same time. Train for 15 minutes. Read 2 pages of real philosophy. Stretch in silence. Track your water. These aren't miracles, they're anchors. They remind you that you're the kind of man who doesn't wait for moods to lead him. You lead yourself. And when you fail, and you will, don't spiral. Restart. Without a story. Without guilt. Don't let a bad moment become a bad day. Don't let a missed habit become a lost identity. Discipline isn't about being perfect. It's about being unshakable in your return. It's about choosing your values again and again until they become second nature. The man with discipline doesn't need to be pushed. He pulls himself. He knows that greatness doesn't show up with fireworks. It shows up with footsteps, taken over and over again, long after the excitement is gone. You don't need fire, you need form. You don't need hype, you need a habit. And if you build that now, if you choose what's hard over what's easy, you won't have to chase results. They'll come looking for you. Because discipline always delivers, quietly, without applause, but with unstoppable force. 8. Tomorrow is a lie. Rise now or stay weak forever. You don't need more time, you need more truth. And the truth is, you've been using tomorrow as your hiding place. You say you'll start when things settle down, when you're ready, when life gives you a break. But deep down, you know that tomorrow never comes. It's a ghost. It's the story you tell yourself to avoid facing the real work. The only thing it builds is regret. Every time you say tomorrow, you choose delay over discipline, comfort over courage. That choice becomes a habit. That habit becomes your identity. And without noticing, you become the kind of person who always plans, always hopes, always talks, but rarely moves. It feels harmless, but it's deadly. Because nothing kills potential more quietly than delay dressed as preparation. The Stoics didn't operate on someday. They lived now, fiercely, directly. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." That wasn't pessimism, it was power. A reminder that now is all we ever really own. You're not promised more years, more chances, more energy. You only have now. And what you do with it decides whether you build strength or stay stuck in weakness. Waiting is a choice. It's just not a strong one. The mind loves comfort, and I'll start later is the most seductive comfort there is. But growth doesn't wait. Discipline doesn't wait. The man who becomes unstoppable is the one who acts before he feels ready, before the path is clear, before the fear dies down. He moves anyway, because he knows momentum beats motivation. You've likely made this mistake before. A new year came, you set goals, you made promises, you felt the surge of change, but nothing stuck. Not because you were lazy, but because you gave yourself an escape route. You believed you had time, so you coasted. You planned instead of performing. You talked instead of building. And now you're here again, still waiting. That ends now. You take control by eliminating the gap between intention and action. You stop saying I will and start saying I am. You trade your fantasy of a perfect moment for the raw reality of this one. Yes, it's messy. Yes, you're not fully ready. But so what? You begin anyway. You begin because waiting is no longer an option. Weakness hides behind delay. Strength shows up immediately. Imagine a man sitting on the edge of his bed at 5 a.m. He doesn't feel like moving. The air is cold. His body is sore. His mind tells him to rest, to sleep in, to do it later. But he doesn't argue. He stands, he moves, he acts. That man wins not because he feels strong, but because he refuses to be led by feelings. He doesn't obey emotion, he obeys the decision. That is Stoic action, not an emotional reaction. Not waiting for alignment. Stoic action moves under pressure. It moves when it's inconvenient. It moves when fear is loud. And that's the very movement that builds unshakable character. Because the muscle of discipline is built in the moment you say, no more waiting, I'm going now. You don't need a new year, a new plan, or another video. You need to confront the delay within you and crush it. That starts with choosing one thing you've postponed. One decision, one task, one habit. No fanfare, no preparation, just action. You don't think, you move. You do the hard thing. You start with 10 push-ups. You go for that walk. You open the book, you write the first sentence, and then you repeat it tomorrow and the day after that, without negotiation. Because when you act now, you steal power back from the future. You stop being a man who watches his life happen and become the man who shapes it. Not later. Now. Always now. You've waited long enough. You've told yourself the same story for too many mornings. The story ends today. The change begins now. And no, it won't be perfect, but it will be real. That's what makes it powerful. So move. Don't plan it. Don't analyze it. Don't emotionalize it. Move. Break the cycle. Destroy the excuse. Choose strength over softness. And make this the moment you finally stop being a man who waits and start becoming a man who leads, quietly, relentlessly. Right now. Every man has a battle within. Not against the world, but against his own doubt, delay, and distraction. What you've heard today wasn't motivation. It was a confrontation. 8 brutal truths drawn from Stoic philosophy, tools, not theories, to tear down every excuse keeping you small. You now understand that your first hour is your proving ground, that the voice of comfort must be silenced, not reasoned with, that pain is a teacher, not an enemy, that failure must be turned into fire, that validation is a trap, that discipline is the quiet path to real strength, that waiting for the right moment is the most dangerous lie of all. These are not ideas to be admired, they are to be practiced. Every single day. You don't have to be perfect, but you must be consistent. You must train your mind like a warrior trains his body, with repetition, intensity, and a willingness to suffer for something greater. You must build emotional resilience, sharpen your habits, and apply daily mindset routines to stay mentally strong, even when no one claps, even when the world stays silent. The Stoics believed you become what you endure, what you repeat, what you choose in the dark. That belief is yours now, but belief alone changes nothing. Action is the only thing that transforms, so begin today, quietly, deliberately, with one habit, one standard, 1 hour of stillness, and the courage to never go back. And if something in you moved, share your experience in the comments below. Tell us which truth hit you hardest. Tell us what stops now. Tell us what begins today. Your discipline is your power, your mind is your weapon. Use it, strengthen it, live it. Every day, relentlessly, without excuse.